Good morning guys. Today's video is going to be talking about upflow filters. So mechanical filtration using static K1 usually to filter out mechanical debris down to a very fine level. So this video really has come about because of the recent review I did on the new Evolution Aqua Tempest video, a brand new filter from Evolution Aqua, which I was lucky enough to get on test before it was actually launched. There's a review here of that filter, well worth a watch if you haven't seen it already. There's a follow-up to that video as well where I put it through some real quite stringent testing, so do check that out if you haven't seen it. In the wake of that video coming out, there's been a lot of interest from people who maybe can't afford the Tempest filter, who are deciding to have a go at making their own filters. Some I've seen are really good indeed, look like they would really do a good job. Others not so much, and it's that reason really that I wanted to make this video, because I don't want to see people kind of wasting their time and money by missing a few key principles, if you like, that you need to know and you need to get right in order for a filter of that type to work. So I thought that I would go through those, as I say, three really key things that you need to nail really in order for your filter to work properly, work as well as it can. And this doesn't just apply to the upflow type filters, this applies to any filter using static K1 for mechanical filtration. So it could be in trays, it could be in vats, boxes, or it could be upflow in a tube, whatever it may be. The principles apply equally to all types. So we'll crack on with the first one. The first thing I want to talk about, and the absolute key fundamental thing in terms of these filters working, is velocity. So basically the speed at which the water is passing through the static K1. Now we all know, it's pretty well accepted that static K1 is good at mechanical filtration. There's the original K1, there's micro K1 or K1 micro, and there's K plus, the newer media. Now in terms of which one's best, that's probably another video, and there's much to discuss, probably between the micro, which is the smaller of the two, and the new K plus, although the new K plus was designed primarily for improving biological function, one of those two, but these principles apply equally to both. So as I say, the absolute fundamental thing that will make or break this filter is how fast the water moves through the media. So too slow and you reduce the amount of muck that you pull into the filter in the first place, so the efficiency drops, i.e. the bottom drain, the pump, the suction range, how much goes down the pipes without settling out, how much muck finds its way to your filter, is reduced as the velocity of the water flowing through the media is reduced. The flip side of that is pulling too fast, so your velocity is too high, and basically you push or drag the muck through the media, you flush it through and push it back to the pond, and the flow is too quick for the media to be trapped and to drop out, for the muck to be trapped and drop out. Now, how we work out the optimum velocity? Well, we know from independent testing that a 200mm diameter tube, the optimum velocity through that tube can be calculated based on knowing the fact that the optimum flow through that tube is 5,000 litres per hour. And just to make the distinction, just to make it clear, if you're not 100% on the difference between velocity or speed and flow, the velocity that is the key parameter in all this is basically, if you imagine you've got a single point, you've got water flowing past it. If you look at a single water molecule and you see how much distance it's travelled in a particular time, that is a speed. You'll all be familiar with miles per hour. Usually meters or feet per second. Probably feet per second is the more popular in terms of this kind of range. So how many feet that warm water molecule travels in a second. That is all you've got with speed. You've got a distance and a time. Now flow, on the other hand, I must make the point as well before I forget, that flow is not relevant to how good the mechanical filtration is. Flow is not relevant. What's relevant is velocity. Now flow, if you think about flow, if you think again about a single point, flow now has a volume to it. So you'll be familiar with probably litres per hour. So how many litres flow past that single point every hour? But it has a volume and a time with it. So totally different to speed. Now, as I said, we know that 500 litres per hour is the optimum flow through a 200 millimeter diameter tube, but the key isn't the flow. As I said, the key is the velocity. So you can calculate from that the velocity, and when you do so, you arrive with a figure of 0.145 feet per second as being the absolute optimum velocity for the water to flow through the static K1 in order for the mechanical filtration function to be optimized. So keep that figure in mind, 0.145 feet per second. Now I'll put that up on the screen and I'll leave it up there, because that, if you take only one thing from this video, it should be that. Now, in order for any filter you make yourself to function properly, you need to be aiming for 0.145 feet per second water velocity through that static K1. Now, to put that into perspective, and to sort of the reason I said flow isn't relevant, if you reduce the tube diameter in the same filter entirely, so same 5,000 litres per hour flow, but you reduce the diameter of the tube down from 200 to 150 millimeters, then the velocity of that water flowing through that media has now gone up to 0.258 feet per second. So you can see the water is traveling almost twice as quick through the media. So just by reducing the tube to 150 mil from 200, you can see straight away your mechanical filtration is lost. Your performance it's off a cliff edge. You're not going to get good performance at all from a 150 mil tube with the same flow, because, as I say, you've almost doubled the velocity. So you're just going to drag the fines and the muck through the media and back to the pond. I've even seen people trying to make these filters with a 100 mil tube, just to complete that. If you drop that down to 100 mil, that tube diameter, but you keep the 5,000 litre per hour flow, the velocity through that is now 0.58 feet per second. So you can see you're not going to take anything out with a 100 mil tube, and very little with a 150 mil tube. So key that, I guess, optimum, you keep the tube as big as possible. You know, if you want to flow 5,000 litres per hour through it, it needs to be 200 millimeters for it to work. Now, if you do reduce down to 150 mil tube and you can't do a 200, it's not necessarily all lost, but you need to adjust the flow that you put through accordingly. So to reverse the calculation, you can now calculate with a 150 millimeter diameter tube and a target of 0.145 feet per second, you can work the other way and get out of that equation the optimum flow. And that optimum flow through a 150 millimeter diameter tube is 2,800 litres per hour. So you can see, even if you keep the 150 millimeter diameter and you drop the flow to give you the correct velocity and to optimize the mechanical filtration performance, you can see at 2,800 litres per hour you're going to drag very little into the filter in the first place. So the efficiency is massively reduced, and again, it's a question about whether it's worth doing at all, to be honest. And again, just for completeness, if you were to calculate that optimum flow for a 100 millimeter diameter tube, you would get 1,260 litres per hour as the optimum flow. So barely a trickle. As you can see, it just isn't going to work at that diameter. And just for completeness, if you were to go the other way, where you to increase the diameter of the tube, if you go up to 250 millimeters diameter, you're then able to flow 8,000 liters per hour and still maintain the correct velocity for good mechanical filtration. So yeah, if you want to flow bigger flows through these type of filters, then you need to increase the diameter of the tube or vessel. It doesn't necessarily have to be a tube. You can also calculate it for rectangular boxes, trays, whatever it may be. Now, I said at the beginning there's three principles I want to talk about. So the second one of those is the depth of the media. So we've talked about the diameter, but then also the depth. Basically at least 30 centimeters deep. So the water, the muck that needs to travel through at least 30 centimeters of static media in order for the filtration to be optimum. And lastly, I want to talk about the cleaning. So I was asked by lots of different people about the merit of adding more air into that cleaning process, and several people quoted the pod as an example of more air being beneficial. So I want to quickly just clear up that the pod and the Tempest are entirely different in the principles of cleaning. The way they work, entirely different. So the pod has the static K1 media, and it has the air, and then it has a grill, and outside of that grill is a waste collection chamber basically. And what happens is you apply the air blows the muck and through the media, out through a grill into a completely separate outer chamber, and then the positive pressure from the air on the inside stops that muck coming back in through the K1 again, through the grill again, back into the K1. So adding more air forces the muck out into this outer waste chamber where it stays, and then you empty that chamber to waste and the muck goes with it. So in that situation, more air is beneficial. But on the Upflow filters, the problem you've got is that the waste water goes down and out at the bottom, and the air that you use to agitate the media comes in from the bottom. So you've got a contradiction. So if you put a lot of air in the bottom, you're creating an upward movement, and basically you push the muck up through the static K1 onto what I call the clean side of the media, which is the pond side, where no muck should get. If you blow that muck through the media to the pond side, when you turn your pump back on after cleaning, you send the muck straight back to your pond. So more air is counterproductive. Basically what you have is the water going out, and you have a principle similar to what, if you look behind me, the air dome on the bottom drain. It's a very similar principle. So the air comes up, and less large bubbles seems to agitate better than small bubbles, but the air comes up and it hits the bottom of the media, and it cleans off and agitates the very bottom part of the media first, which has the more muck, the highest concentration of muck collected, and it sort of does this effect the same way that the bottom drain circulates them and pushes the muck in. The dome on your bottom drain circulates and pushes the muck into your drain. The water coming up agitates the media, and you can see it does this and pushes the muck down where it's caught in the downdraft of the water going out to waste, and it's sucked out. So you want to kind of generate this effect through the very center of the tube and create an effect whereby you gently break the muck away progressively, and it comes down and it is able to then be sucked out. If you just create a massive upflow of air, you're just pushing everything up, and it's not the way to go. It's counterproductive. And what happens is that gentle air, it has this effect, and as the water level drops, it progressively moves further into the media, albeit the cleaner media where less muck has penetrated, and it takes it away, and it's a really efficient way of doing it. So something to think about when you're looking at how you're going to clean an upflow filter in particular, and kind of get away from the idea that just throwing in lots of air is the way to go, because it really isn't. It as I say, you end up just pushing muck through the media, which is the last thing you want. It ends up on the clean side and then ends up going back to the pond. So just something to think about really. As I say, from what I've seen with the Tempest, gradual gentle bubble and bigger bubbles, less of them, seem to have a better effect. But you want to create the same effect that you get from your bottom drain air dome, and you can actually see that happening when you do a clean. If you watch closely, you can see that happening. So yeah, totally different to the pod in that the water, the muck has to come out from the same direction, the same place that the air to agitate is coming in. So yeah, those are the three things I wanted to talk about. As I say, I've seen a lot of homemade examples that look like they will work really well, that kind of have all those principles incorporated, but I've also seen a lot more that completely miss the mark, and I just, as I say, I don't want people to waste their time and money on something that with just a little bit of thought could be so much better. So hopefully that was useful. If so, do as always give me a like. Do check out my other videos. I have now enabled channel memberships, which have been really successful so far, really good uptake. We've got a little Facebook group community going for members. That's going really well, so check that out. There's a join button on the front page of the channel just below the banner. Click on that. You won't be signed up just by clicking on it. It'll show you a little video explaining everything, so do look at that. Do remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future updates, and until the next time, take care. I'll see you soon.